Hi everyone! Today I am going to be doing a non-spoilery review for Fairest of All by Serena Valentino. This is the first book in the Villains series, which is a series of companion novels that follow the different Disney villains, although the second book is about the Beast, who I wouldn't consider to be a Disney villain, but alright. I don't actually know if all the books are set up this way because I haven't read the other ones yet, but this was basically an origin story for the Evil Queen, and then the story follows up and through into the movie Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, so if you've already seen that movie, then you've basically already spoiled yourself for the ending of this book, just letting you know. This book is only about 250 pages, so I feel like I can't really give you much of a synopsis without spoiling stuff, so all I can really say is that it is an origin story, and hopefully that's enough to pique your interest. I kind of had a love-hate relationship with this book. Obviously, I love Disney, I love villain origin stories, and I actually really loved the plot of this book, but my main problem with it was the writing and the pacing of it. So when this book opens up, Snow White is a really young child, and obviously we have to work our way up to the movie when she is like a younger teenager, so there were just these weird jumps in time where like several months would go by, or sometimes it would be days, but a lot of times it was like months of passing time, and it just don't feel like it was done very well as far as that pacing. And then the writing style for me just felt a little juvenile. Like, this book is marketed for young adults for the most part, but even if it was a middle grade, I feel like there were times where the writing just like dumbed down the reader a little bit too much, and there were also these parts where the author would repeat the same like phrase or description of something on the same page. For example, one part right at the beginning, she describes Snow White as like a little bird of a girl or something like that, and she describes her that way twice on the same page, and I just don't think that works that well. That's how I felt about the writing and the pacing of the book, which was, for the most part, the only negative thing I had to say about it. As far as the plot goes, like I said before, I actually really liked it, and I thought this story weaved itself together really cleverly. I actually watched Snow White after reading this book, and something that I found really interesting was the part at the beginning when Snow White is singing by the well and the prince comes, which is actually my calendar page for today. Which, what a coinkydink. But yeah, that scene in the movie when she's singing by the well and the prince comes and she runs away from him and then they end up singing together and she's on the balcony. I feel like when we're watching that, we just kind of assume that that's the first time that she meets the prince and she's running away like Aurora because she thinks he's like a stranger. But actually in the book, they've known each other for quite a while, and she runs away for a different reason that I won't spoil for you, but I think that was really interesting how that was kind of done. There were just several things in the movie that the author gave explanations for in this book, or a history to, like the mirror, and even the box that the queen gives the huntsman in the movie has a history to it in this book, and I just really loved that. I thought it was really interesting the way that the author weaved all of that together. Really, the only critique I have for the plot is that I felt like there were certain parts of it that weren't quite fleshed out enough. For instance, there are these three sisters that serve a pretty big part in this story, and we just never get any explanation as to why they are the way they are or where they came from, and they're like related to the king, so it's like, where did these three sisters just come out of nowhere from? But I actually looked it up, and apparently these three sisters appear in all of the books in this series, and I think the most recent one that she put out, I don't know if it's the last one in the series or if she's gonna write more, but I know it's the most recent one that was written in this series is like those sisters' origin story. And in that case, I feel like you can't really read these as standalones anymore, which I thought you were able to, because unless you don't really care to know that extra bit of the story, but I'm someone that needs an explanation for everything, so I guess that's how you loop me into reading the entire series. But yeah, I want an explanation as to who these random sisters are, because I ain't never heard of them before. So the only other thing I wanted to mention about this book is this little part of the story at the very beginning that I just thought was so clever, and it's right at the beginning, so it's not a spoiler, but I just wanted to tell you about it because, like I said, I thought it was brilliant. But basically, there's this part where the evil queen, who is not so evil at the time because she started off as quite a nice lady, she is telling Snow White a bedtime story, and Snow White wanted to hear a story about a dragon, so The queen tells her basically the story of Sleeping Beauty, but from Maleficent's perspective as like this woman who could turn into a dragon, and I just thought that that was really well done, like not only incorporating another Disney story into this book, but also then telling it from the perspective of the villain, just to keep adding to like the layers of how this is all about the villains. So I just thought that that was really brilliant, and overall I did really enjoy this. I do wish the writing would have been a little bit better. I think that was the book's biggest downfall, but the plot really helped, and I really liked that part of it. So leave me a comment down below and let me know if you've read this book and what you thought of it. I'd love to discuss it with you in the comments. And if you've read any of the future books in the series, let me know if the writing maybe gets any better, because I do really want to pick up the other books. So yeah, that is all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!
You hear that, Samson?